Hello everyone, Eb here, Tech Motorsports, and welcome to episode 3. This time it is on the engine. So what I will be doing will be the VANOS. So what we're going to go through the video is I'm going to go ahead and remove the timing or remove the VANOS unit. So set that in timing and then show the process of the complete removal. Key points to look at when you are removing and how to throw some marks in there so that way you can verify timing, make sure it was done correctly previously if somebody's gone under before. And then also I will show the process of the install and also touch base on the sweet spot that everybody talks about on these, which there is a sweet spot. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then also while I have the VANOS unit out, it'll get rebuilt. That will be another episode, which probably will be episode number 4. Do a full VANOS bulletproof unit. So we're gonna go ahead and get that going. So also, just to point out, I've done a lot of the videos and just kept recording, and then I started cutting them in and editing them. So if you're looking at the other episodes and you see, hey man, this seems to be wearing the same clothes, it's because it's the same day and I just ended the other ones and added beginning segments. So here we are. So please don't think I only have one red shirt. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and get plugging away. So first thing I'm going to end up doing is putting the crank on TDC. Also, when you want to take a peek of when you're doing it on TDC, you do have your markings on the crank itself. Which I'm pointing at it now, but you can't see because of the camera. And then you also take a close attention to cylinder number 1, the cam lobes. When you have it on TDC, both cam lobes will be almost pretty much facing at one another. So that's another pinpoint that you need to look at when you set any timing. So I already have mine set in timing. I will add my my trusty pin, my crank pin, and then just making sure this is correct here. And there we go, she's on TDC. So now for the next step, what you want to end up doing is you grab your timing block. So A for exhaust, E for intake. So a little backwards, but you know, that's how it is in German. So what you end up doing is you put that in there, and right off the back is you take one of your pins and then you just put it right in the cam. And to know it's timed correctly on that section, it should fall right in, which this one did. So that's a plus. So I'm hoping that this one's never been messed with before, and this is directly from the factory. So as of right now, beautiful pin number. The intake cam. Now the exhaust cam is going to be off a little bit. It will not align up. So that will come here in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and I'm going to leave that pin in. And then what we'll have to end up doing is just releasing the VANOS unit here, taking the bridge off here as well, taking the VANOS line off, and yeah, and we'll start going with that. Okay, now what I'm going to end up doing, because the front is pretty dirty, I'm going to go ahead and clean that off so that way when I take the VANOS and I have it off, none of the stuff goes inside the head. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up as best as I can to just minimize any dirt going in. Also, the front crank seal is not leaking, so we're going to go ahead and leave it that way. If you did end up replacing the front crank seal, you also keep in mind that these 4 bolts that hold down the harmonic balancer onto the crank, those are one-time use only, so you'd have to purchase 4 new ones and torque those down. So just a key point. So let's keep plugging away, and I'm going to end up cleaning all this junk off. Okay, now that I got the whole timing cover and went a little bit and got carried away and did some of the other side, I went ahead and already removed the engine bracket and the the oil accumulator for the VANOS. I already took that off. I got that down on a drip pan just to give me a little bit more room. And but yeah, she's already clean, so most of the dirt's already off, so it should be, you know, no issues of anything going into the engine. So yeah, so back to the VANOS. So I was stating before, I got my TDC, I got my cam in place, or my cam lock in place, and then my cam, the intake cam, my drop pin just falls right in. And like I stated, the one on the exhaust side is off, but we have to rotate that to be able to get that in place. So I'm gonna go ahead. I already got my bolts removed from here. I got my VANOS solenoid off. So now it's just time to take these 10 millimeters out. And then what I'm gonna end up doing is, to assist when I have it off, I'm going to take 2 of the bolts from the VANOS unit that I took off from up here, from up top. You have this one, or these. And I'm gonna put them here in place so that way when I start tapping the VANOS unit out, these will be my guides. Okay, so I got my 7 mil, which is actually a 9/32. You could use that as well. And then my 10 mil. So these bolts, or these studs for the helical coil and the piston for the VANOS, they're reverse thread. So you got to remember that, reverse thread. So instead of going right tight or, you know, lefty loosey, it's going to be the opposite. So there we go. The VANOS is now detached from the actual cylinder head. So I could take these bolts out here. So that's good. We're looking in the exhaust tub. None of the tabs are broken, which is positive. We do have a new one as well, so no worries on that end. But here is the part. Well, let me go ahead and get this up here. See if I can get this changed here. So what I want to do is, I like to do this. And I can see now it's a little snug, little tight. What it's going to end up taking technically to get it in the spot, but at least I got it top dead. But this is the most important one, the intake one. So if I could get it, just see right now, it's all tight. So one thing that you want to look at is, if this motor, this engine is in the car, this hub is going to be almost pretty much parallel with the floor. All right, so keep that in mind. Right now, because the engine is straight up, it's off a little at a certain degrees. So a good thing to look at is, on this, is with this little slot here, that should technically be sitting on top, which, like I stated, it's going to give you the look of, when you look at those 2 tabs, it'll be straight and even with the floor. So, and then you got your 2 holes here. Now these holes will assist you, okay, and this is why it's important that you look and you have these pin pointing upwards. There is a tool, let me grab that. This tool right here that comes in the actual timing kit, if you purchase the whole entire kit. So this tool is technically for here. All right, so this is going to be technically your slotting and moving back and forth, and it's going to be on both. So once you install this and you go to put these back together, that's why you need to look at, and they need to be pointing up. You can't put this in if the hole is over here on this side. So there's a reference point, okay? So now what we're gonna end up also doing is this right here. Well, let me clean off a little bit of this real quick. Now the reason why I'm doing this is so it makes it easier for me to mark, and my marks stay on there with my pen. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark the chain just to give us an idea of where everything is at. These sprockets are going to go back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my chain here, and I'm reusing the chain. So we're going to make my mark here on this chain here. And right there, and I'm gonna go off center here, right there. So these marks will help get everything lined up, make it easier when it goes back together, okay? So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to verify if the actual timing the helical timing is in the right spot. And this is what you want to end up doing. This is why I cleaned everything up, so we could go ahead and mark everything. So what we're going to do is, since it's on top already, I'm going to mark just one tooth. And then, well, once I loosen these and that, I'll be able to pull these out a little bit more, and I'll be able to get a better mark on it. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen these. Now, another thing, this is the reason why I like to have and keep these in place. So in case you do loosen anything, they stay in place. So. Now, when you're loosening these right here, you want to do little by little, and you want to do around the clock. And the reason why, it is spring loaded. All right, so that way you don't bind anything up or put too much pressure on anything. So what you want to do is, once you got it loose, just loosen them out by finger, out by hand. And then what you want to do is just snug them up. That way you know that is finger tight, because we will need to rotate this. And now we'll do the same thing with the exhaust. So here is that pin. As you can see, it's sliding. So now I'm going to get the exhaust one, pull it out. Okay, and all I'm doing is just try to get it out. Stubborn, there we go. Just so that I can get my marks on it. So just pick a spot, any spot. And now you want to try to get a top of the coil, the helicoil, or the spline. The helical, not heli, the helical. Come on. So this one seems to be a little snug. Let me loosen this one up a tad bit more. I guess for precautionary measures, I should go ahead and do this. I did forget to do this, kinda. I did do it at the beginning. Okay, so now is going to be the pinnacle point, and this is what, in reference that everybody talks about, is the sweet spot on the cam. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera a little bit closer, so stand tight. Okay, so here we are. I got my 2 pins, and I know you're only supposed to do 1, but I do 2. There's hardly any pressure on these, so I want to make sure when I'm doing this and I'm checking everything that these will not move at all. Okay, so I got my markings on my chain and on the upper hub on both sides, and then I also have my marks on the helical gear, on the intake, and the exhaust hub. Okay, so this is exactly how I just took it off. Now, the reason we're doing this is we want to verify. We want to verify that we're taking this off and that it is done correctly. We just don't want to mark it and assume when we're taking it off that it was timed correctly. We are going to verify. So when you do the markings, this is how you end up verifying. So it's quick and easy. Once you have this in place, you got it marked, you do is you slide it completely out. Okay, and then here's your splines that go inside the cam, and this is the splines that are for the hubs themselves, the helical. Okay, so if we put it back in spot, there we go, so it's in there. Okay, so if I take it all just out enough to where I can rotate this, there it is. This hub should not rotate clockwise at all, and it did. So that right there, to me, that means the timing's off. Okay, so let's find the right, what they call the sweet spot. So I'm going to go ahead and just start rotating it. There's 1, that's not it. There's 2, that's not it. There's 3, that's not it. There's 4 right there. There she is. So if you look, if I pull it completely out, and then she goes right on in. Look how far that it's off from the marking here to here. Okay, I moved the camera so you can see this a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on its regular spot where I got it from. There we go, so that's it. So the other check, the verification for this, and then the reasoning why you have to have this on the sweet spot is this. When you advance the cam on the intake or exhaust, there is certain movement that this helical gear needs to be doing. So if you look at it and if I press it all the way in, that's as far as it goes. And if you look, use this one, got my trusty little tool here that actually helps. You can see that helical gear, or the actual stud here, sticks out pretty far. So right now, you're getting, if it was from the outside, you're barely getting any movement. That's pretty much not using the actual cam and advancing it fully. Now, if I move it to the spot where it should be, there it is in the center. Watch this. Now look how far that sits in there now. And as you can see, I mean, it rubs a little bit, but that is way in. And you got the same thing with the exhaust hub. This is on its factory one, or where I first pulled it out. And the way you could verify this is, if I end up putting this on there, I could see that the spline is almost touching here, or the actual stud itself, the little reverse threaded stud. So if I move this one in the regular spot, in the spot where it's supposed to be, because this one's off just a tad bit. There it is right there. So if I move it, see, that one moved just a little bit, but I still have to move it back. But if I go forward one spot, it's right on it. See, it's just pressure, and all I have to do is slide it in, and she bites instantly. And now when I push it all the way in, it sits in, and it sits further, and it sits behind the actual tab itself. That right there is pretty much utilizing full advance on both the intake and the exhaust. Oh, and I pulled it out. There we go. So that's where it's very important that these are checked. When you remove something, you don't want to assume that it is timed correctly, and that just shows you that this one was not timed correctly. So when I put it all back together, I will do all this again. Some of them will have markings, some of them won't, and the reason why I won't have markings is because this hub is going to be replaced. Okay, so now we're starting with clean helical gears. So there are no markings on these. If you do purchase new ones, which you can get them from, I forget what company, you can get these already pre-done. You don't have to do them yourself. But yeah, so here we go. So we're going to start from scratch. So this is technically starting from scratch what we're at. If I would have cleaned this hub a little bit and made it look more like that, I would have no markings at all. But we're gonna go ahead and leave that marking in there. So you have two different sizes. You have the actual shafts themselves. The short one is for the intake and the long one is for the exhaust. So we're gonna start with the intake, okay? So I'm still in TDC, and I got my cam locks in place, and my hub rotates. So to do it and to get it right, you wanna rotate the hub clockwise, and then it's just time to try to find a spot. So you should be able to just push it in. It's not that one. All right, I'm gonna have to take my gloves off. There we go. So as I stated before, the sweet spot, this is what we're looking for. And what we need to look at is the full insertion of the helical gear inside the actual cam and the actual hub itself. So that right there is where it needs to be. So this way, when the system is being activated and the VANOS is engaged, you're going to get full advance. If you have it and it's off, you will not get full advance. So that's where I want it to be. So now I'm going to take my mark and just run it off of this one right here. I'm going to pull this out. And there's my mark for the intake cam. Now let's work on the exhaust. I think I found it already. So I always double check, pull it out, turn it, and then she slides right on in. So with this one, because of the tabs that stick out, you want to just look down at it and you can see that you're technically close to these lines, and that's just pretty much as far as it's going to go for the exhaust cam. So then to mark it, just pull it out. And there we go. That is the markings for a correct time VANOS. So from this point forward, all you have to do is just apply the VANOS system, which we'll go through here in a few minutes. But that's how you know you have the timing and you have the correct timing. Now, I'm not using the actual switch box to activate everything, but without using that switch box, this is how it should be done. And that way you know you're going to get the full advance when it's called for. So yeah, so this is going to be the end of this episode for the VANOS timing. I will put everything together on the removal, the install and the removal one. So like always, guys, thank you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next episode.